This is Kelvin from Kelty Arts. It's been a while, but welcome back to Maya Quick Tips. Today's topic is the polyDual node. It's a pretty hidden node since there's not much information about it, so I'm going to give you a brief explanation. Basically, this node turns a triangulated mesh into a honeycomb-like structure. There are several use cases for this, such as honeycomb Scifi patterns and scales for organic creatures. Here I have an example of a lizard-based mesh taken from Maya's content browser. First things first, for you to access this node, you'll need bonus tools installed on your Maya version. Head on over to Windows, then Settings and Preferences, and Plugin Manager. On the search bar, type in Poly Tools. If it's not already on, just check on Loaded. Then just close the window. I'm going to delete all the meshes and start fresh. I'm going to open the Poly Modeling shelf. Just going to create a basic sphere. Before running the polyDual node, we have to triangulate the mesh first, because polyDual node only works with triangles. For this, I'm using the poly remesh. With default settings, it already looks like a very interesting pattern. With the mesh selected, in the command line on the bottom, type in polyDual and enter. Once activated, you should see a change in topology. Here I'm just showing you what the NB steps does. It just basically shrinks the mesh, which doesn't seem very useful, so I'm not going to go further with it. Next up, we're going to create a cube. Adjust the segments to give more subdivisions to work with. This time we'll try a different method of triangulation by using polypoke, and see what that gives us with the polyDual node. This time around, I'm getting a more uniformed octagonal pattern, which can be useful for making floor tiles like this. Next, we're going to switch it up. By changing the method of triangulation, you'll get a different result. Like before, we're going to run it through the polyDual command. As you can see, this time you get a slanted hexagonal pattern. The flow of the pattern is influenced by the direction of triangles. You can take the pattern further by insetting the faces and extrude inwards, adding some depth to the detail. For the last example, I'm going to pull up the content browser. Go to the animal section of the sculpting base mesh. Drag and drop the reptile to the viewport. This imports the mesh into the scene. Just gonna move it over to the side. Since I want to create scales of a smaller size, I want to increase the subdivisions, so there's more geo to work with. Then like before, I'm going to triangulate the mesh, and I'm going to use poly remesh to add some randomness to the pattern. The lower the amount of max edge length will give you more triangles, whereas increasing the collapse threshold will give you a more uniform triangle distribution. Overall, less grid-like. Here I'm just tweaking and playing with the values until I'm happy with the results. I'm going to exit the poly remesh settings, then test it with the polyDual. Overall, the scales look pretty good, but I want to introduce some variations to it. Let's say I want the scales to be larger in the belly area. To do that, I simply switch to the paint selection tool and select the faces in the belly area. Once I have the faces selected, I'm going to right click and go to Reduce Faces. The goal here is to get larger faces to feed into the polyDual node, which in return will produce larger scales. Just gonna run the polyDual. Unfortunately, the resulting scales look a little bit stretched. I'm gonna undo and go back to the triangulation process. With the faces still selected, I'm running it through the poly remesh. I'm going to try to get larger triangulated faces that is more evenly spread. I think I'm going to go slightly larger here. Let's run the polyDual again. This is the result. I could probably go further with this, but I think this is a good demonstration of how to approach different size scales. That's it for this quick tip. I hope you can get a basic understanding of what polyDual is and how to use it in your workflow.